Hey there, Seb here. Hope you're having a lovely day and hope you're in for some PS2 goodness today because, well, that's what we're going to do mostly. Griezo's with us again as well. He is doing better and better each day, which is great. Surprisingly, he's also started to see again, which shouldn't even be possible. I mean, in March they said that his retinas had detached, so, that's not coming back. Personal experience with that shit messes up real fast. But here we are. He responds to things again in front of his face. He isn't glued to the wall anymore, and he's not walking around like a drug addict where his pupils are dilated all day long. Now he has more standard cat eyes. At least I hope. I mean, just call me a liar again, but yeah, you can see him, I can't. Anyway, so today I wanted to go for some PS2 pickups. I got 2 lots in the last couple of months. I figured it'd be fun to go through it because I think I really lucked out in these lots. There is some amazing stuff in there. Some games that were on my wish list for a while, which isn't hard because my wish list is pretty big. But also some games I had never heard of, and there is one in particular in there that I did not know there was a PS2 release of that. And when I looked up the value of that game, it kind of shocked me, like, wow, okay, I did not know it was worth that much. These games were mostly, I think the first pack that I got came down to €3 per game, and the second was €7 per game. But that €7 pack did come also with a system, like a PS2, with 2 controllers, a bunch of memory cards, even a PS1 memory card. You can never have enough memory cards. And very interesting, a cable I did not actually know exists, which is always cool to see. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. I mean, I am not surprised that it exists, but I am kind of surprised that it is a official Sony cable. What this is to connect your PS2, or maybe this was for your PS1, but it's black, so I'm assuming this was released for the PS2. But to connect it to your coaxial cable in your TV if you don't have RCA or component. Again, I'm not surprised that something like this exists, but I am surprised that it was an official Sony cable. So I thought that was kind of interesting to show off. It's not very useful, especially nowadays. Like, who would actually intentionally hook up their console on one of these? But yeah, still cool to find. Something else, because I've been lately going over my PS2 games to sort them out and clean them up and put them in the old shelves. I am nearing, with the ones that we have here, I am very much nearing the 500 mark, which is pretty cool. Nice little milestone there. Sometimes you have like these ticks where all of a sudden you just feel like playing a certain system, and for me that was the PS2 lately. I normally hook my systems up to my capture card, like I always play in front of my computer. I never hook something up on the TV basically. Most things work decently well, but for the PS2 it was so annoying. Like, I'm not a stippler for needing the best graphics, like heck, a little noise or a lower resolution. I can't even see the difference, but something that I could see was the interlacing artifacts, and it drove me bonkers. And in hindsight, I just didn't make the best choice, because at some point I figured, I need to hook up my CDI, another console, to my capture card. And I used to do that through the RCA cables, but now I have it RGB bonded, but that goes to a SCART, and the capture card does not have a SCART, so I need to transfer that somehow. So I figured, let's just buy a RetroTINK. Well, the RetroTINK 5X was just out back then and it had already sold out, so that kind of sucked. So I guess I need to go to the 2X then. Well, that one doesn't have RGB, so I ended up getting this one over here, the RetroTINK 2X RGB, which only has an RGB SCART, and it works wonderful for the CDI, but it works so wonderful that it is such an improvement on the visuals that now if I hook something else up, especially if it's interlaced, I cannot stand it. I cannot stand the PS2 in particular. The interlacing artifacts are horrendous. Like you get this big ghosting, and I cannot for the life of me figure out in OBS how to make it somewhat watchable. I mean, it's doable. You can still play the game. It's always distracting there. So I just bit the bullet and kept on the lookout, and I did find a decent deal for a 5X. Now I know there is also a 4K version out right now, but that doesn't really add anything that I would be interested in. Now, of course, I also said that with the RGB one, so hopefully I don't bite my tongue in a year or so where I still go after it. But honestly, everything I play in 1080p anyway. My capture card can't even capture 4K, so it's like on my TV, the 4K might have some use, but otherwise, yeah, this one will work just fine for me. So yeah, this has a SCART and components for the PS2, also has S-Video, and you can also input RCA on here. It doesn't have, what's it called? VGA, but I think VGA can easily be transferred to HDMI and go through my capture card directly still. So that's cool. Still need to figure out how the thing works, because all the menus, I look at them and it's like a different language. I have no clue what anything does. And well, that's the problem with me. I can tinker with the option, because for most options they say, well, just try it out and see what looks best. And I just cannot see the difference. I cannot see the difference. I do notice that adaptive deinterlacing is so much better compared to what OBS has when it comes to interlacing. Now, you're never going to get a completely clean image through with interlaced images, but you get what you get, and this is an improvement. But yeah, maybe someday someone would be awesome enough to guide me a bit through the settings to make up some profiles for the systems I use. Maybe through stream or something we can do that, where I just switch stuff around and people say, yeah, that looks better. No, that looks horrible. Now we don't see anything. Well, there goes the screen. That happens. Anyway, I've digressed way too long already. I am sorry. I am the digress king after all. Let's go over some games, because there should be a big improvement in visuals as well, which I will demonstrate through our first game over here, which I recorded through the standard way and through the RetroTINK to get a bit of a comparison there, and that is Time Crisis 2, which I did not have. I do remember seeing this game back then, and the visuals really impressed me. It was one of the first PS2 games where I was like, yeah, I want a PS2. Not necessarily for this game. Unfortunately, any light gun isn't very compatible with me, or I'm not compatible with the light guns, I guess. So I also don't have a gun con. I would like to get one some of these days and try it out again, because I do like the Time Crisis games. I just, you have to sit a distance from the screen, and that tends to be so far for me that I don't see what the hell is going on screen. Like the only way I can see details or anything is when I basically taste what I'm looking at. Light gun games are always a bit hit and miss. You can play it with the controller, but I couldn't find like an option to adjust the sensitivity of it. It's probably in there. I only gave it a quick look. So yeah, maybe at some point I will get a gun con as well and try it out, but or see if I can get decent with the controller. We will see. Here we have. This is what's the full name? Star Wars Racer Revenge. Yes. which is a game I never knew. I'm going to show you the front cover, but it's kind of covered by a small sticker. Think it's big enough, guys? Jeez, half the cover. But yeah, I've never heard of this game. I only know of course, the N64 game, the Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, or is Pod Race? I don't know, I never liked it. From what I played for this one, this didn't feel too bad actually. It felt okay. I didn't blow up right away as I did in the N64 version, so that might be fun to check out. Next up we have Soul Calibur III. This one's very dirty also. I don't know where that PS2 came from, that whole lot. It smells of attic like you wouldn't believe. But yeah, that can be remedied and just clean them up a bit. But yeah, Soul Calibur 3, game I of course knew about, but I never played. And most of the games are complete with the manual. Yeah, I'm just terrible in fighting games, but Tekken is like one of the few games I kind of enjoy. And Soul Calibur, you know, that follows kind of that same formula, so I think that's pretty cool. Plus, you get to slice people up with some swords and stuff. You know, if you add weapons to the mix, it instantly becomes more edgy. Oh my god. No, but yeah, it looks like a cool series. I just don't have any experience with it, but I'm pretty sure I would enjoy it, but I'm never going to excel at fighting games. It's always a shame. You see people pull off all these awesome moves and you try it and you can't even do a simple combo. That's basically me. It sucks. Then we have Dynasty Warriors III. I only have Dynasty Warriors 2 and I have 4, I think, Empires. 2 isn't that great, I think. I think the first one is a fighting game, right? So I wouldn't even be interested in that one. But yeah, these games can be a bit of a guilty pleasure. They're just fun to mow down legions of enemies for a bit. From what I understand, 3 is where the series kind of got good. You know, it really got its identity down and, you know, it worked from there. 4 Empires is probably better than this one, but it will be fun to check out and see if I can go through that at some point. Then we have the first real neat one that came in this pack, I think, which is Resident Evil Dead Aim, which is one that you don't find too often. I'm not the biggest Resi fan. I do have most of the PS2 games, but I'm just terrible with them anyway. This is a follow-up to like the sub-series of Resident Evil Survivor, which started on the PS1. Then there was Gun Survivor 2 on the PS2. And then you had Dead Aim, which kind of follows the same formula, where you do get to explore the levels in third person, like kind of like Resident Evil 4, I guess. But whenever you press R1 to put up your weapon, you have to actually aim like in a first person shooter. So I'm pretty sure this one is also compatible with the gun con. Not sure how easy it would be to navigate then still. But you know, it's fun, and from what I played, I actually kind of enjoyed this one. So that will be fun to check out as well in full. Yeah, I'm just not a huge Resident Evil fan. I know, sue me. Then we have a game that I knew existed. I wanted for a long time. Ever back in the day, I saw it and I kind of was intrigued by it, but I just never got it. And that is Zone of the Enders. Which is, how do you say that, like flying mechs, like Gundam and such. You're piloting one, and it's also very story heavy. It is directed by Hideo Kojima, so you know it's one of those stories. In fact, I remember back in the day when this just came out, there were some people who said like, oh, I bought the demo for Metal Gear Solid 2 and I got a decent game with it too, and that was this game. Unfortunately, the demo for Metal Gear Solid is not in here, because it should be, but it is not. At least I think there should be an indication that the demo is in here, but it's gone. And I'm not sure if there were ever re-releases where they just didn't have this, but there has been a sticker here, so I assume that the previous owner just ripped this off and kept that the most valuable piece for himself. I don't know. Looks fun. I want to play through that. It's a cool game, I think. And I also got the sequel to it, Zone of the Enders 2, the second runner. Yeah, I guess the pilots are called runners. Not entirely sure. I only played a small bit of it. This one is more of the same. Both of these games, by the way, something that kind of surprised me is how good they still look. But yeah, plays good. It's nice, and looking forward to check both these games out in full and play through them in the entirety. Then we have Dragon Ball Z Infinite World, and I had never heard of this game, and I booted it up and it made a very, very bad first impression, because the first mission has Goku running through some rings, like really. And what is annoying is in each menu there's like an option to bring up the controls, and in the first stage you can't do that. And I was running out of time. Well, I didn't know that if you press triangle you bring up the dragon radar and you can actually find all the gates. So yeah, left a bit of a bad first impression, but otherwise actually seems like a bit of a continuation of the original Budokai series, I guess. Unfortunately this one does not have the manual, so boo-hoo, someone stole my manual. But yeah, looks okay. Never heard of it, so always cool to find those. The only game I originally owned back in the day was Budokai 2, and that was some good fun. Another game I had never heard about, and also kind of caught me off my guard, is Portal Runner. I had no clue what this game is. It is from 3DO company, you know, the guys behind, well, the console, but also the Army Man games, I guess. And yeah, this apparently is part of the Army Man games, which you wouldn't say from the cover. Now, I'm not very well versed in the lore of Army Man. To be honest, I didn't know there was lore in the Army Man universe. But this is like a platformer with some shooting elements. If you do not like tank controls, do not get this game. For a PS2 game, this control scheme feels very archaic. But when you get used to it, it does seem like a decent game. Like, it's not going to dethrone any Spyros or crashes or anything. But it looks decent and kind of a unique environment and such. So I think I will be interested in checking it out. But yeah, that first stage when I was given control, holy crap, those controls were weird. What's very strange is that it has tank controls, but it also allows you to freely move the camera. And that combination does not work, okay? Because you can tilt the camera to the right, and then, you know, forward is still forward, so you get this weird angle which she's running in. It was so weird, man. You just need to get it behind the back and never touch the camera button again. It is so weird. Anyway, here is another Dragon Ball Z game, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which is one that I don't have. I have Budokai 1, 2 and 3, and I think I have Tenkaichi 2 as well. So the only one I don't have is Tenkaichi 1. And these are games I wouldn't necessarily hunt down. Like, I'm not a huge Dragon Ball fan or anything. Especially if it's Platinum. Normally I skip on Platinum because, look at this, okay? In PAL territories we have all white boxes, yeah? So when you have one Platinum, it looks like this. Like, what is that? Ugh, so ugly. So I really don't like Platinum versions of games because they screw up my shelves. And I know there's a bit of a discussion like, oh, the US boxes look so much nicer with their covers. That argument has not aged well, and you have some YouTubers who go over that, like, oh no, the PS2 cases are so ugly in Europe, and then, you know, they stand in front of a case full with Switch games. Now it's hilarious. Anyway, I actually like those spines being a single color because, well, if you've noticed, I'm half blind, and this reads a far bit easier than something where the cover is like extended, and then there is some stylistic title on top of it. Those I can't read as easily, but these are nice to read for me, so I do prefer these just because of that. But yeah, Tenkaichi 3 in platinum, so maybe at some point I will change this one out for a normal version. And the good thing about this one is that Tenkaichi 3 is actually rather sought after. So the bad thing is that they are expensive, and I got a really good deal here because the platinum version still is almost as pricey as the standard version. So in that regard, I can basically trade them in at some point, kind of. You know, I can sell this one and for almost the same thing get a normal original release, I guess. I don't know, some games are weird like that, because most platinum versions, like Greatest Hit in the US, are considerably less value. But for some games, they are so good that people just want them regardless, you know. Then we have, what is this? Operation Win.Back. A game I knew nothing about until I started playing it. And then I remembered that this game, I think, gets brought up sometime when talking about Kill Switch in particular, for who was actually the first game to offer cover mechanics. So yeah, this is a cover shooter, a very early idea in that genre. So it's a bit janky and not very polished, but I don't know, it does still work, and it was a new idea at the time. So I might check this one out as well at some point to see how far I can go and actually get through the whole game and see what they actually did with the idea back then. Because all footage you find usually is, well, basically from the same stuff I'm showing now too, from the first bit. Because it takes some time to get used to those controls, I feel. They're not the most intuitive. Next up we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a beat 'em up. I think this is based off of that, I want to say that new cartoon, but I think since then there have been 2 new renditions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I've seen none of them. I only know the cartoon from the 80s. You know, the good one. From what I've played, this felt pretty basic, but I do like the looks of it. It's cel-shaded and it looks pretty neat. Has some comic book style in there as well. So it looks like a pretty decent game. Then we have, what is this? WDL Thunder Thanks, and that's World Destruction League. Which is another game by the 3DO company. Yay! This one is not an Army Man game, at least I don't think so. Who knows? Who knows how deep the Army Man rabbit hole really goes? No, this is 3DO company looking at Twisted Metal, saying like, okay, how can we make this more jank? And you get this. I did not enjoy this from little I've played. It's very basic. Controls are not great. As I say, it's very janky, again with the tank controls, although these are actual tanks, so makes more sense. But also they are a bit too responsive for tanks. You can speed around pretty quickly with these things, but you also blow up in like one shot. I don't know, and they try to give it some personality. They don't really double down on that, so it's there, but it's like very light window dressing. I don't know what to think of this one. Might want to check it out sometimes for the channel, but I doubt that's going to be a favorite of mine anytime soon from the little I played. Then we have, well, the one double I have here, the Simpsons Game. I was hoping to actually improve upon my own copy, but this one doesn't seem that great either. And it's full with stickers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Think it's enough. Game Shop 20. It's actually a decent game shop, honestly. But yeah, the Simpsons Game. A fun fact, just real quickly in another tab, look up the Simpsons game, different covers. Just look it up, and it's just something fun that I never knew until I recently saw it, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. But otherwise, this is not the version of the game you want to play. You really want the PS3 or Xbox 360 version of this, I guess. This is kind of a compromised version, which, makes sense. It's still playable and all that, but it's not as good. But, we still want it. And then we have Simpsons Hit and Run, which is an absolute amazing game. I had this on PC originally. From what I played, this plays fine. I have no clue which version is the best, but there is no old next-gen version. So, it's either this or I think on Xbox. Did it come out on GameCube? I don't know. And PC. I think they're all good. And it's just fun. It's like GTA for in the Simpsons universe, and it has a great sense of humor. There's lots of things to do and explore Springfield freely, which is a lot of fun. And it hails from the good era of the Simpsons, so that's good. Now, unfortunately, it is a platinum version, so I do want to probably see if I can trade it in for a normal version once again. But coincidentally, this is also one of those games that just has value because it is just a sought-after game. People just enjoy this game, and with good right. It's a good game. I like it. So looking forward to playing that, because the first time I played it on PC, oh boy, that's when it was just out, so it's been a while. Then we come to Mega Drive collection for the PS2, which is just a compilation of Mega Drive games. Has some great games. Don't have Streets of Rage though, which is a bit of a bummer, I guess, but there's so many ways to play these things now. You know what I find funny when it comes to SEGA and their re-releases? It's almost always the Mega Drive. Where's my Master System Mini, damn it? I like the Master System. Master System has some great games. And I oftentimes prefer, especially the color palette, over the NES. It's just more vibrant. But anyway, see, king of digressing. Yeah, I think this is okay. Obviously didn't test out all the games, but it has a good selection. It has the Sonics. Well, only Sonic 1 and 2 actually. Not 3, and also not Spinball, which is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. It does have Golden Axe, so you can still beat people up. Golden Axe 1, 2 and 3, so that's good. Well, 3 maybe not so much, but 1 and 2 at least. It has some RPGs in here, like Phantasy Star 2, 3 and 4, and it has Sword of Vermilion. It has Flicky, it has Altered Beast. Strangely enough, you can also unlock a arcade version of Altered Beast, and if that's around, then why would you ever deal with the Mega Drive version? But whatever, Altered Beast sucks in general, so I wouldn't play that anyway. So yeah, a good compilation. From what I played, it also sounds okay, although I was not sure if the ring sound, it sounded a bit too harsh to me. But I could be misremembering. It's been a while since I played the original Sonic on actual hardware. It's by no means as bad as those consoles from Ed Games and Blaze about 10 years ago that just had horrendous sound emulation. So yeah, seems like a pretty good pack. And then we have Viewtiful Joe. This was another game that I saw when it came out, and it looked really cool, but I never got around to getting it. And it also, it looks a bit intimidating to me. And yeah, as I play it, yeah, it does require a lot of attention to really get good and good ratings and such. So this is one that I probably want to practice a good bit and definitely want to go through, because it's still, this is one of those games as well that just looks and feels and sounds still amazingly. Like, you could release this now, maybe give it a bit of a HD facelift, but it would still be an amazing game today. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing through this one. Looks fun, and it has that nice sense of humor, I think, from what I've seen so far. So that's cool. And usually these tend to be kind of pricey, so I just like, yeah, I would like to try them, but I like to try so many games, so let's just skip for now and just wait till I get a good deal. Well, here it is. This one costs basically peanuts. And I got the second game, Viewtiful Joe 2, with it right away. So how can you say no? Which is much of the same, although now you can also his girlfriend. What's her name? Viola? I don't remember. But yeah, she plays too now as a second character, so that's cool. Then we have another game I really wanted, but always I found too expensive. But in such a cheap pack, it so happened to be here, Castlevania. And my US friends might be wondering, like, okay, Castlevania, that's on the NES. No, this is Castlevania Lament of Innocence, but that just sounded way too hard for us Europeans, so they just cut out the subtitle, and this is just Castlevania now, I guess. But yeah, Lament of Innocence. I played this when it was fairly new, and I actually enjoyed it, but I never owned it. So I've always had a hunkering to go back to this one and just go through it to its entirety, see what it's like. Same deal for its sequel, Curse of Darkness, which is even better than this one actually. But you know, this is the first game. This is actually, I think, at the time it was like the first game in the series chronologically. And I think that is still the case. This is where the Belmonts get in their little feud with Dracula. And yeah, this is also where they get the whip as their weapon. So yeah, cool. 3D Castlevanias get a bit of a bad rep. I know this one also seems to have a bad reputation. And I never understood why, because it's from what I've played, it played fine. And now I've played it again for the video to record some footage. And I enjoyed it. So yeah, I don't know why people don't like this one so much, but I like it. I mean, it's not Symphony of the Night, okay? That's a high bar to reach. But for one of the earlier 3D outings, I think they did great. And this has more personality than Words of Shadow, for example, which is also a decent game. It doesn't feel as Castlevania anymore. And this, if you play it, you're like, yeah, that's a 3D Castlevania game, damn it. And I respect it for that. And yeah, Curse of Darkness, I would really love to get that one as well. But that one is also quite pricey, more expensive than this one even. But maybe I find it in another lucky pack, who knows. And Curse of Darkness also ties in, well, I guess the Netflix animated series kind of ties into that one as well, where they took some characters from Curse of Darkness. Trevor Belmont is in there as well. You can kick his ass. Although the first time you fight him, he will probably kick your ass. And then the biggest surprise for me, this is a game I did not know that was released on PS2. I know I played it at one point, probably through MAME or something. And it's a game that, I don't know, on paper it's a game that I should really enjoy, but I don't. And that is Soul Divide. It is kind of a shoot 'em up with some very light RPG elements, and you can also choose your route that alters the story slightly. There is magic, and if some enemy comes too close, you can have a melee attack. So it's kind of interesting, but for me it just did not click at all. Back then it didn't. I played it again now, and it's also one of those games that starts out like piss easy, and then by stage 3, when you are, you know, in knee deep, they just all of a sudden it ramps up the difficulty insanely fast. I hate when arcade games do that. So yeah, never knew this came out on PS2. And what's even weirder is that I think this is a PAL exclusive, and this game apparently came out in Japan on the Sega Saturn, and in the US on the PlayStation 1, and in Europe on the PlayStation 2. Like, do you know any other game that does that, where it has a port and for each region on a different system? That is so weird. I think Japan also got a re-release on PS2. But yeah, that was just curious. And then I looked up the value, and it's like $80 or something. Like, whoa, what the... yeah, that was real lucky to get it. I mean, I'm gonna keep it. This one, it looks in immaculate condition too. Like, it has never been used almost. I guess the person who got it first also didn't like it much. I don't know. But yeah, excellent find. And like, there is no game in here that was more than $7. Remember, one pack came down to $3 per game, and one came down to 7. And look how many awesome games are in here. They are amazing. So yeah, very, very lucky with that, I think. And let me know what you think. Are there any games that you recognize? Are the games that that you really enjoy? And what are some of your more recent good lucky finds in general, where you just got a good deal? I mean, it's been a while for me to get such a good deal, to be honest. And do you have any particular PS2 goals in mind? If anyone is interested, I also have a ton of doubles, none in this set, well, except for the Simpsons game. But yes, over the years, I've been accumulating quite a few doubles. So if anyone is looking for some PS2 games, I would love to do some trading, more so than selling, actually. I did have, as always, some issues with making this video, and I wanted to complain about that, but I'm actually going to push that to another video where I just go over things a bit. Just have another fun ranty video, I suppose, but it would take too long to also put it in this one. But yeah, that did cause a slight delay in this one, so I'm sorry for that, but whatever, you know, it is what it is. We got through it, hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching. The muzzle!